Ladies and gentlemen, federal employees, if you are looking to preserve your wealth, the investment you've worked hard to accumulate, to put away, to grow, if you're looking to preserve that wealth as you go into retirement. So, of course, we want you to have a lot of money at the beginning of your retirement, but how do we make sure you can preserve that over the course of your retirement? And maybe you have goals to give, maybe leave money to kids. How can we make sure these things happen, that you don't run out of money sooner than you want to? Well, let's talk about that. That's what we're going to talk about today. And if you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Dallin Haas. I'm a financial planner who helps federal employees every day with exactly these things. Let's talk about it. Number one, the first thing that you can do to help yourself not run out of money too soon and to preserve your wealth over time is withdrawals. Now, there's kind of two parts to this. Number one is avoid large withdrawals. Now, let me explain what I'm talking about. I am totally I'm in support of you using your money, enjoying your money, and using it. Some people I talk to are so scared to even touch their money now because I might run out, that they don't use their money. And if that's your goal, great. But if it's your goal to enjoy your money while you're alive, well, then it's okay to take withdrawals. But if you do huge withdrawals all at once, let me give an example. Let's say this is your normal income, and for whatever reason, 1 year you need a ton of money for, let's say, a big vacation, a vacation home, whatever, pay off the mortgage, anything big. If you spike your income like that, it's going to put you into a much higher tax bracket, which means you're just going to pay a lot more in taxes. So there's just less money overall for yourself because a higher percentage of it goes to the IRS. So when it comes to withdrawals, again, you want to avoid large one-time withdrawals whenever possible. You want to spread things out over time. The smoother your income is over the course of your retirement, the less taxes you pay. If you have lots of ups and downs, you're going to pay way more in taxes just because our tax system, it's progressive, meaning the more income you have, the higher percentage goes in taxes. So whenever you have huge spikes, that is bad for your tax bracket. So that's number one, is you want to avoid large withdrawals. Now, number two is how much are you taking out per year? Long story short, it doesn't matter how much growth you get in investments. If you take too much out, your money's just not going to last. Let me give you an example. Now, I talk a lot about, in different of my videos, about the 4% rule. Let me share this screen here with you. So this chart shows you, depending on what withdrawal rates you take, how much money you might have left over at retirement. So let's talk through some of these examples. So if someone withdraws 4%, now when we say 4%, this is what they're talking about. If someone has $500,000, 4% of that is $20,000, okay? And so what this 4% rule means is, hey, year one, you take out $20,000. Year two, you take out $20,000 plus you increase it by whatever inflation was. So if inflation was 2%, great. You take 2% more than $20,000, okay? And you keep doing that over time. So you don't multiply your new balance every year by 4%. You just you take your initial amount, multiply by 4%, and then take that amount, the $20,000 in this example, increase that by inflation over time. That is what they're following here on the chart, okay? So as you see here in orange, the orange line, as everything starts here, the orange represents the 4% rule. Now let me explain a couple things about this chart. Number one, this assumes this person retired at the turn of the century. So if you retired December of 1999, and you, of course, were retired for the last 20, 25 years or so, all right? And it assumes we started with about $500,000. If you took out 4% every year, as you see, obviously there's ups and downs. Certainly 2008 was a big down, as we see here. But overall, because of just the overall growth that happens overall, you ended 20-some years later with about the same amount that you started with, maybe a little bit extra. Okay, so, and long story short, the 4% rule doesn't guarantee you won't run out. There's no guarantees ever, but using a safe withdrawal rate can definitely help you make sure your money lasts. And for example, if you withdrew 8% per year, then your money ran out within about 12 years. Okay, again, 7%, 6%, 5%, you can see the thing. Now, again, we don't know what the future holds, but this is what happened the last 20, 25 years. And for those that are curious, this assumes that someone had half of their money in some long-term investments, half their money in safe investments, meaning about 50% in things like the G fund, F fund, and the other 50% in things like the C fund, S fund, I fund. Okay? So that is what you can think about when it comes to taking money out is, generally speaking, if you're too much above 4% over time and you want your money to last a full retirement, you got to be quite careful, okay? So let's come back up here. Long story short, that is the first thing, is if you get your withdrawals right, where you don't take huge withdrawals all at once, and you are taking a reasonable amount out every year, that's the first step. Now, the next step, and I already alluded to this, is if you don't invest your money well, then a lot of these other things don't matter. So for example, if you only invest in the G fund, which the G fund, as you probably know, in the TSP, it just doesn't grow very much. Okay, on average, it's been about 2% or so over the last 30 years. Now, the last couple of years, it's done more. It's been closer to 4 to 5%, just because interest rates are higher. But certainly, that's probably going to go down over time, is the thought. That's the goal. But we'll see. We'll see. Long story short, if you have too much of your money in things that just don't grow a lot over time and you're taking your withdrawals, then your money simply won't last very long. You need to have some money. Well, let me back up. You don't need to do anything, but if the goal is to make sure your money can keep up with inflation and you actually keep some buying power over time, above and beyond the rising prices, if you don't have any money in some long-term investments, that can be a huge problem. Again, if you're too heavy in the safe investments, that's a problem. Now, also, it can be a problem if you are too aggressive as well. You kind of have to find a balancing act. So, for example, if you have too much in the CS&I, as you know, these can be very, very volatile, okay? And this is why that can be a problem. Long story short, the markets do this, right? The CS&I, they go up and down. And what if the market is way down right here and you want to go take that vacation and you want to take a withdrawal and you're forced to sell when the market is down? That's a terrible time to have to sell. So it's about finding a balance where you want to have some of your money in the CS&I and things that are going to grow over time. And you also want to have some of your money that is going to be safe, right? So it's ready to be withdrawn without having to be at the mercy of whatever the market's doing at the time. I've got whole videos on investing in retirement. You can check those out if you want more details on any of that, okay? So again, first, we want to make sure our withdrawals are reasonable and timed appropriately. Also, you want to make sure you're invested in a way that makes sense for your goals. Last but not least, this is huge. This is if you're looking to preserve wealth, this is one major problem that we see all the time that if you do things correctly, you can avoid. So let me paint you a picture. Let's say you retire at 62, okay? 62 is when you retire. And you've got, let's say, your pension income, Social Security income. Let's say you're taking a little bit from investments, right? This is your normal income level. And let's say these are the different tax brackets, right? Where, as you know, let's say this is 12%, this is 22, this is 24, 32, etc., right? And let's say this is when you turn 75, okay? Well, one of the biggest things to worry about in retirement is when it comes to TSP, IRAs, anything that's retirement accounts, that anything that's pre-tax, which the vast majority of federal employees have the vast majority of their wealth in pre-tax TSP. That's just where most of it is. And if you didn't know, at 75 or earlier, depending on your birthday, it could be 73, 72, depending on when you were born. But normally, for all of you that aren't at RMD age yet, it's going to probably be about 75, okay? At 75, RMDs come into play. And what RMDs are, they stand for Required Minimum Distributions. What that means is the government says, look, all that money that's pre-tax sitting in your TSP, it's going to start coming out. Whether you want to take the withdrawal or not, whether you need the withdrawal or not, you got to start taking the money out and you got to start paying taxes. So what happens very commonly, is people have pretty steady income, no spikes in their tax bracket, things are good, and then 75 comes along. And then, boom, they're forced to take out a lot more from investments, and their tax bracket just skyrockets over time, okay? And so they were, let's say, down in the 12% bracket. Now they're up into, let's say, the 24% bracket. Their taxes almost doubled. Their tax bracket almost doubled. Okay. Now, what can we do about this? Now, there's different strategies, but one thing to consider is if you are able to get money over to Roth over time. Now, I've got whole videos on doing Roth conversions, which means getting money over to Roth over time, because Roth accounts are not subject to RMDs. Roth accounts, you're never forced to take them out at 75 or anytime. You can keep it in there as long as you want. It can grow tax-free, which is fantastic. So what often makes sense is instead of just waiting until 75 and RMD is just killing you, if you slowly move some money over throughout the beginning stages of your retirement over to Roth, where whenever you move money over to Roth, yes, you increase your taxes today. That's just how it works. You increase your taxes today. But if you do it where you keep yourself in some of those lower tax brackets, right, where maybe you just fill up this 12% bracket or whatever bracket you happen to be in, and then down the road, what that means is you just have way less pre-tax dollars that are going to be subject to RMDs, and so maybe RMDs will be a thing, but it'll be way less of an impact for you. Okay, this goes super far in first saving you as much tax as possible and making sure you have control over your wealth. You're not forced to pull money out when you don't want to. Okay. So long story short, I could do a whole hour on each one of these topics here about each one of these withdrawals, investments, Roth, RMDs, all this stuff. There's so much here, but I wanted to mention the most relevant things and pass this on to you. I hope that is helpful, and I'll see you guys in the next video.